Cool. All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Janice Mackay, the Welcoming Communities Advisor from Ashburton District Council, and I'm here today with Connie Quigley and Paul, also known as Pup Chamberlain from Lives Worth Living Suicide Prevention. They work for Safer Mid Canterbury, and I thought I'd just give you a bit of an intro. Connie and Pup both have extensive experience in the healthcare sector. Connie's been a mental health clinician for primary and secondary care, and she was a team leader for Waitaha Health here in Ashburton. Pup spent 38 years as a police officer running a drug abuse training program in the community and with officers nationally. And he's been working in community and public health here locally in Mid Canterbury for the last 4 to 5 years. So now they work in Lives Worth Living. They've got some great, amazing tips and strategies, which I've already had the pleasure of learning from them previously in a YouTube clip, which is now available, which we'll send you the link to again if you haven't seen it. Now, because this is a Q&A session, we will run through a brief version of Connie and Pup's usual presentation. Please feel free to ask questions to me, the host, in the chat function of this Zoom webinar. So just send it to me, the host, and I will then be able to forward your question through to Connie and Pup. And they will answer it either during the presentation or we'll wait to the end where we can have a bit more of a chit chat. Feel free to email any kind of question you have, send a message in the chat box, any kind of question that you have. So I will hand it over now to Connie and Pup, and I'll just pop out of the video and we'll take it from there. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you for that, Janice. So as you said, Janice, Pup and I work in the role of Lives Worth Living. It was a community developed role that was created last October and is funded by community organisations. One of the key objectives of our role is actually for suicide, to develop a suicide prevention 5-year plan for our community, and our focus on work is actually increasing community awareness by facilitating workshops on wellbeing and resilience in our community, and also actually navigating services, identifying key in supporting people at risk in our community, working in consultation with Pegasus Health, and also providing postvention in our community for those who have suffered a loss by suicide. And we also facilitate grief and loss programs in our community, and currently we're facilitating the Skylight Bereaved by Suicide program. This is a program for families and for friends who have lost somebody by suicide. To be part of the program, it has to be 4 months post your loss, and it's an 8-week evidence-based program which was developed up in Wellington, where it actually supports somebody going through the bereavement process. We're also at the moment working along with Anglican Care and just hoping to get an Oceans Grief program running for us here in our community at the moment. So Wellbeing, do you want to jump in there, Pup?
Yeah, so look, as you can see by this slide, we're talking about lots and lots of things. Wellbeing is a word that we hear a lot nowadays, and it covers so much of our life. We've got a very materialistic world that we live at the moment. Some of us have had time to sit back and think about that during this lockdown. But if you look at this slide, you can see that the meaning of well-being extends to everything from our health, prosperity, whatever way you look at that, your contentment, your spirit, whatever that means to you, welfare, all of those things. It's that self-awareness, and Connie will tell you about this slide that she loves so much.
Mm-hmm. So for me, it's actually self-awareness, I think, is key in management of our well-being. And if we're aware of our own wee little anxieties and triggers that we actually make us quite overwhelmed, it helps us actually develop a self-awareness plan in management of our own well-being. And having an awareness, so for someone who's quite anxious like I can be, having an awareness that actually I can get quite anxious and overwhelmed at times actually helps me to actually recognize what are the triggers, recognize what is important for me to have in place. And because as we're aware, 47% of New Zealanders will experience anxiety at some stage in their life. So having an awareness and recognizing that actually being a worry and being an overthinker can be a good thing. It puts things in control in our life. It ensures that we are organized. It ensures that we'll pay the bills. It ensures that our house runs quite functionality well. But it's when life becomes a wee bit overwhelming and the balance in life becomes a little bit out of sorts, that we need to be a wee bit more self-aware. So this slide, guys, is actually about depression and just looking at depression and anxiety. So our generalized anxiety disorder, the signs and symptoms of it, we're looking at restlessness. It impacts us on our fatigue, our excessive anxiety and worrying, increase in muscle achiness or sores, because sometimes our body physically can become really, really sore, and which is a sign of how stressed and overwhelmed we are. Impacts on our concentration and our focus. We can ruminate, overthink, catastrophize, which actually also impacts on our concentration, our irritability, and also, of course, our sleep. So for a lot of us who can become quite overwhelmed, waking up at the 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, broken sleep, early morning awakenings is something really to look out for, but just quite an erratic sleep pattern.
I see we've got a question there, Connie. When does anxiety become how do we know when anxiety becomes an issue as opposed to just a hiccup in life?
I think it actually, what we look at there, Pup, is actually the impact it is having actually on our life and on our well-being and on our family unit. And that's when, so for me, taking an example for me as a mum, I can recognize that actually when I'm becoming quite agitated and really, really irritable, really, really quickly and quite reactive with my children and within my home, that's not actually me. So when we recognize a change in our behavior, a change in our pattern, and a change in our self-worth, I think that's when we really need to look at actually, we need to make change here.
And that making change, you've got some good little tools for that later on.
Absolutely.
Right.
And just jumping in there on the anxiety, when we can get quite anxious, it of course can also impact quite significantly on our mood, especially when we don't do anything to when we don't recognize it and we don't actually acknowledge it and we don't seek help. So looking at some of the signs and symptoms of depression, the helplessness, energy loss, the thoughts of death, erratic sleep problem, our anger and our irritability, loss of interest in daily activities, and loss of enjoyment in life, focus and concentration, sadness, and of course, we can have issues around alcohol and alcohol abuse.
And sometimes that's when we do need to listen to those close to us, isn't it? Because we don't often recognise that we are in those states.
We don't, and it's actually it's sometimes it's those who are most closest to us and our loved ones around us actually can recognise the change in our behaviour, because at that point we can see it, and sometimes we're afraid to see it. So there's just a wee slide again, just looking at some of the symptoms of anxiety, depression can overlap with that restlessness, that excessive worrying, that agitation, but recognizing anxiety, you're looking at the physical symptoms, the high heart rate, the sweating, the palpitations, the feeling of nervousness, increased breathing, trembling, and having that sense of impending danger and that real negative thought processes. depression, the frustration, the sadness, the worthlessness, the hopelessness, the irritability, loss of interest in normal life, and lots of interest in things we would have enjoyed, suicidal ideation, the tiredness, our appetite, and of course, our sleep. So when we look, this model is looking at it's the CBT model actually around the anxiety and the signs and symptoms of anxiety and how it presents itself in our life. So when we look at anxiety, I look at it at 4 key points, and sometimes I look at this as a skateboard model. So looking at our behavior will become quite agitated, and for a lot of people who can be really anxious, sometimes they can become quite passive aggressive and quite irritable. It affects our thoughts, our overthinking, our ruminating, our catastrophizing, our irrationalized thought process. And for me, I know at points I can actually get quite paranoid in my thought processes. Bodily sensations, how it impacts us in our physically, our heart racing. For me, I can often get quite a heat rash. I think I touched on this last week. I can get quite a heat rash, feeling nauseous, sweating, palpitations, restlessness, restless legs, heart racing, all of that comes with it. And everyone can have their own individual physical symptoms. Also, our mood, it impacts on our mood, and it impacts just on our mood and our self-worth. So it's recognizing that anxiety, it can actually impact us, as I'm pointing up here in the air. But looking at our thoughts, our bodily sensations, our behavior, and our moods, and just becoming aware that, for me, recognizing any of those bodily sensations coming on. So for any time I will go for an interview, I always have a heat rash. I'll always have an irritable tummy afterwards, but I'm aware of that. And when I'm like that, so often going into an interview or something, I'll bring a bottle of water with me, and I'll pre-plan and prepare myself actually going into that environment.
Janice, I was a bit slow. I wonder if you could put that question up again, that previous question. So these things you're talking about here, Connie, again, the people that are likely to hurt as a result of that too are the ones close to us.
Absolutely, absolutely. And for many, they can be the ones who can recognize our behavior the most.
So somebody's asking there, would it be a good idea to ask my family and friends that are close to me to have some input into how they think I'm reacting at the time? So that'd probably be a good idea, but you'd have to be open to the answers, wouldn't you?
I think that's a really good idea. And I think often our family, and I think we actually got this question last week, that people can be afraid actually to create more anxiety or to create more worry they perceive it as, and they're afraid to actually have that conversation with a family member. So I think if you're feeling comfortable to that would be really, really awesome. And that's actually reaching out and seeking help, and recognizing the biggest part of all of this is actually recognizing, hey, I'm quite aware of actually things that are so good for me at the moment. And once we can recognize that, then we just need to put a support in place that we can implement change. And recognizing that actually at the moment, that's everything that's happening in the world, all our anxieties are heightened. Okay. Right. So recognizing that we're all actually increasingly anxious at the moment. I know for me, my sleep pattern, my routine, I said that to you yesterday, Pup, this week I've been pretty good all along, but actually yesterday I hit a door. I don't know, was it the kids going back to school, trying to manage that, trying to manage work, but I could feel I was irritable. So in the middle of the day, I went out for a walk when I was meant to be doing a load of washing, but actually I just needed to take that time, clear my head, because my reaction was increasing and the transference of the anxiety on everyone here at home.
Right. So this is a well-known model in education and other areas such as health. This is about us, and it's used here as the whare to show that without one part of it, the rest will collapse. So we look at the spiritual side of us, Now, I said the other day, sometimes that's religion, sometimes that's not. Sometimes that's just my inner. We've all got spiritualism to some sort of form of, the meaning to life, what we think about things, what brings us good feelings, all those type of things. Our mental and emotional side to us. And again, this is so important to have right if we're going to function well. Our family and social, so how we get on within our whānau and our social. So we're missing a bit of that social side at the moment with isolation and maybe getting too much of the family side, but it's getting that balance right and being happy with it. The land, our roots, where we come from, identifying that this is who we are and what's important to us. And again, we have that feeling of this national strength in the first 2 weeks of shutdown that we've got a wee bit of a fear of losing now because the novelty's wearing off. But it's important that we are who we are. And then the physical. This is getting out for those walks like Connie spoke about yesterday. Bugger the washing I need for me to get out and get some fresh air. And I know I've certainly been doing the same each day. So this is the complete us. This is what makes us up.
Yeah. And I know it was Sir Mason Jury developed this model of Whare Tapafa, and recognizing actually, for our foundation and for our pillars that we're looking at each sector, and it just takes either part of the roof to fall in or a wall for for our foundations to become unstable. So looking at each area in our life,
the structure is only as strong as one part of it, isn't it?
Absolutely, really simple healthcare model. So this is Maslow. This is 1943. It's the Maslow's Hierarchy needs, and it's looking at actually for us to, it goes from physiological to safety, love and belonging, esteem, and self-actualization, and recognizing actually that we need to look at our basic needs, our air, water, food, drinking, basic needs, before we can actually move forward up to that desire to become the most who we are on self-actualization. And I think that's more evident now than ever, that what's more important for us actually currently to feel in control of what's happening here and now is our food, is our safety, is our warmth, is our daily activity. And looking at those really basic needs actually helps in this feeling of that loving, self-belonging, esteem, and finally self-actualization.
Just got a question there, Connie.
Yeah.
How can I offer or help a family member that I think might be going through anxiety and or depression?
Yeah. I think it really is to, if you feel that you are the person that has a good relationship with your loved one and you feel comfortable in talking to them, is actually doing a little bit of planning around it. So making sure, if it's in the evening that the kids are gone to bed, and just taking that time and even having the environment in quite a relaxed, a relaxing evening. So for me, 7 o'clock in the evening is a good time, and to sit down and just telling your family member that you are really concerned, what you have seen, how it's been impacting on their behavior and self-worth, and how you want to help. So just asking those key questions and just recognizing, hey, I'm really concerned, and I've seen, in the last couple of weeks that you're not who you usually are, and you're getting the same enjoyment out of life. And actually, I think we need to just, get you along to the GP and, have that regular check, but just recognizing that, that you care for them, that you love them, and that you're having this conversation with them because you're really worried about them.
And would it be fair to say there, Connie, sometimes you might have the foresight to recognise that maybe I'm too close to this person, but I know who would be able to have this conversation with them?
Absolutely. So I think it's important for us to look at, that sometimes, and if you've tried and you failed and you've tried to recognize it, actually recognizing someone that is important to your loved one and that they have a relationship with, that you feel that they would be comfortable having that conversation with them. That if you feel that you can't get through, to actually, have a conversation with a friend of theirs, or actually sit down and just having that catch up about saying, I'm really concerned, we need to get you some help.
Great.
But letting them know that you're doing this, because not that it's that their behavior has been erratic, or not that is actually, that it's not that it's a criticism, that is, you're actually doing it because you love them.
Yep. So it's how you have that conversation.
How you
Excellent.
have that conversation.
Yeah.
And that you're in a good place to have that conversation.
Yep.
So this is Roper Logan and Tierney. It's 1974. This was developed, and this is just, it was developed around the nursing care plan. It's the activities of daily living. But again, I think I put it up because I think at the moment it's really, really key that actually the importance of all of these areas in our life, of how we can maintain a safe and warm and comfortable environment at the moment. Importance of communication with others, of reading, importance of our diet, importance of actually that good self-care. So at the getting up in the morning, washing the hair, getting out of the clothes, not sitting in the pajamas all day. It's okay to have one pajama day, but thou shalt not allow thyself to have 7 pajamas days. I have a wee 10 commandments in that one, and I love it. But actually, putting a bit of a value on yourself, putting a bit of lippy on. I'm not saying you should put lippy on, but if you like it, you put on lippy. But actually taking that self-care, to feeling good about yourself when you actually, it's not for anyone else, it's actually for you. Also, keeping active, getting out there, and just all of this leads to actually just a good healthy pattern in life, which we actually at the moment is having that balance, that it is key at the moment to just keep life simple. Keep it, just going on it on a day-to-day basis at the moment, and focusing at all those areas in our life, actually looking after our self-care.
Cool.
We touched on this before, Pop. This is the wheel of balance, and it's just it's a life coach wheel. And I like this because it gets us to look at all the areas in our life. And when we can be quite overwhelmed, sometimes we can look at all areas in our life aren't in a good place, or that everything is a disaster. But actually scoring each of these areas out of 10 and seeing where we are. So, where's our relationship at the moment? Where's our relationship with family and friends? I know for me, and since all of this, my relationship with the kids has actually been really awesome. Yes, we've gone through a wee bit of a spike at the beginning, but it's actually got us to really reconnect. So I'd probably give that a 9 out of 10 at the moment. Fun and recreation, how's that? How's our activity? My personal growth. We've had a lot of personal growth in the last couple of weeks with all of this Zoom stuff going on. But actually scoring it out of 10, and then actually going back. So, for finances, maybe it's a 6 out of 10 for some of us at the moment. For health and well-being, maybe an 8 out of 10. And maybe for my physical environment, it could be a 5. So looking at it but then actually going back and looking at, okay, a year ago, where would I have rated each of those areas? And with that, it recognizes, okay, well, actually, financially, I'm in a better position, even though it doesn't feel like it at the moment. My family and friends, my relationships are much improved. My career identity and growth is really good, but actually, I need to be looking after my physical health a wee bit more. So recognizing and then putting some smart, measurable goals around the areas that we need to focus on.
Just had another good question, which sort of goes in line with what we're talking about here anyway. Is it okay to look after myself and pamper myself a bit, or do I need to be concentrating on looking after my bubble and those in it?
I always say, and I would have always said this when somebody came in to see me when I was working in brief intervention, that actually it's really important to be self-focused and look after our own well-being first. Because for me to be a good mom and a good partner and a good work colleague, which I hope I am, Pup, I need to be in a good place. So I think we have to look, and I know that if I'm in a good place and I'm in control, my life is in control at the moment, my anxieties are reduced. So it's happy life, happy wife syndrome in this house, really. So I think it's key. We have to, and we're actually modeling to our children and to our partner the importance of good self-care.
Excellent.
Good question. So we put up a wee little little thing on this yesterday, a wee little webinar, is that what it's called, pup, just on our page. And we've loads of stuff, guys, on the Lives Worth Living page, loads of tools, loads of links of stuff. If you go on under Safer Mid Canterbury, the Lives Worth Living page, you'll see loads of tools of Pup and I doing wee little clippings and just tools that you can access. Scheduling key, and at the moment, and I think yesterday I touched on this with you, Pup, it got me back there again, because we had kind of got, and it's very easy at the moment to go off the radar on our scheduling and to be getting up later and stay watching that movie till 1 o'clock at night, but then that's not so good the following morning. And now at the moment, for the kids to function, especially in the school environment, and for us living alone, the importance of scheduling and routine, breaking up our morning and our afternoon, and each day having a purpose to the day, because at the moment each day is running into each other, and actually giving us a feeling of self-control and also giving us a feeling of achievement of each day is really important. When we look at that, we often can say, especially for people who are working long hours of work, they can say, family life has got really good. They say, oh my God, and this goes back to the self-care question that, I don't have time for myself. There's 168 hours in the week. For those of us who are working outside of home, it's 40-hour working week. It can be, this is just an example, this is different of course for everyone involved. Even if we're getting a good sleeping pattern, it's 56 hours, 8 hours a night. Also looking that we've also counted in this one, the 42 hours of eating, of family time, of engaging all the activities of daily living, taking the kids to the sport, all of that activity. But there's still another 30 hours there that, for me, sometimes that's when I can plop in front of the television. I say, I don't have time to do the walk. Well, I actually have to. If I don't schedule it, it's not going to happen. If I don't put it up in my planner, it's not going to happen. And we're really, really good putting stuff up in our planner every week, from what day the kids have practice or what day the kids have a game. Do we put ourselves up in the planner? And that's a change I think that we all need to do. So ensuring that that 30 hours a week, how can we break that down? I'm just looking at saying, 40 minutes a day to ourselves is really, really important. There's no excuse. We just need to schedule and prioritize that. And actually, it's okay to have leftovers at the moment. We've all got into the baking and the cooking. We don't need to be having 4-course meals every day. If the kids were in school, they wouldn't be able to eat every day. They'd have to wait for their lunchtime, So all of those things, actually just scheduling, structure, routine, prioritizing self and prioritizing time for others.
So just on that, we've had a question. I plan my week pretty well at the start of each week, but as the week goes on, I start to lose that desire and discipline as the week goes on. How can I overcome that?
Yeah. So I'm presuming this is in relation to doing, maybe getting out for that walk or self-care. So I would find, for me, in the morning, I find I'm better. I'm a morning person. So recognizing, are you a morning person, or are you the person that prefers to go out in the evening time? So for me, my walk at the moment is actually getting up and going for a walk around 7 o'clock, because I'm noticing it prepares me for the day. It's a walk, it's not a run. If I want to do a run, I'll do a run later. But that's my 40 minutes of self-care time. So it's actually focusing that and doing some journals. I have a wee gratitude journal, and there's some great stuff on, we actually have the link to that. Blessings Manifestations have some really, really cool stuff on just little motivating tools and how we can continue to do focus on our well-being. They have a website there, and there's some links to it on the Lives Worth Living page. Just how we can increase our motivation, doing the journals, and just slowly prioritizing time to self. Sometimes it's good if we can do that with another friend, if that motivates us. For me, to get motivated at the moment and to motivate my kids, I'm doing a yoga class with my Anna, because she's quite anxious. So she's 11, we're doing yoga on TV. I'm doing body combat with my 15-year-old that has a daughter who's quite a big girl with loads of energy. So they're actually motivating me. I've got the kids to do some goals around looking at the 5 areas of well-being. So we're working through the goals. So we're motivating each other.
So that's a good answer to that person, that maybe they need to involve a friend or someone, like you and I are with our exercise at the moment. Send a photo each day. Now, I missed one of the last questions.
I thought you said I thought you were going to say I missed. Pop and I have been doing this photo every day of when we've been out active, and I never sent you one yesterday, but I did walk actually.
Yes, I believe it. Verity, I saw that last one just about these overheads. They will be made available, won't they,
Yes,
Connie? And they're on the YouTube clip, which will be given to you at the end.
Absolutely.
But also the one before that, Verity, I just missed that. If you could put it back up. Thank you. Right, this is our bucket list. Our bucket list is so important, you know, to set goals in your life and have a direction. And Connie certainly lectured me at my age about this, that I'm a young man, keep setting goals. And it's so important. And I always talk about this as, you know, for me, it's like I've got something to look forward to. And once you've done it, whether it's working to increase your knowledge or something like that, you've got that feeling of achievement that comes with it, and you're a better person for it. But also, it's just, for me, it's a bit like there's a Christmas around every corner. You know, I've got a fishing trip coming up, or I've got something else happening. Now, I'm just looking at that question, was to plan my week out. It's written down, but no, we answered that one. So this bucket list, the idea of that is keep yourself motivated, set goals, plan how they're going to happen so that they're not just dreams. So goals, you need to do some planning, otherwise they don't happen, whether that's saving money or taking the first step or whatever it is. So this bucket list of ideas, and it makes life much more rich and much more worthwhile and meaningful.
And I think when setting goals, Pop, you know, we're looking at our short-term goals and our long-term goals, and you know, we're all really great at the New Year's resolution, and then by February, March, they can kind of go off the rails. So, I also think in setting our goals, it's really important that we recharge the batteries. Every 8 weeks, I always try to set that we go away for a day. It doesn't have to cost money. It can be tramping, doing the hour reserve, or tramping up Pudding Hill. You know, but actually taking a day away from normal life, just to re-energize ourselves and to get the batteries focused again.
It's like at the end of work each day, I pretend I'm taking a key out of Connie's brain to turn it off for the day, because I know she's going to go home and be churning things over and worrying about people.
Yeah. And I think this working from home, Pop, as well, we've had to be more and more disciplined. Because, as I said to you, our work is really important to us, but it can get to a balance that it should never take over the other areas of our life. And I think this has been a time that actually we've had to look at, you know, what's our purpose in life. And actually,
sorry, Connie, Janice has just sent me a very good message. People are wondering if I'm looking at my computer saying Verity. My computer's not called Verity. Verity is one of the people working in the background helping us set this up from the council. So I wasn't talking to my computer. I haven't got that intimate with it yet. Sorry, Connie, carry on.
That's all good. But setting goals, having a focus, you know, and making those goals smart ones. So, you know, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and in a timely manner. Because if we don't put a time on these things, they don't happen. And actually, you know, switching off, we always spoke about that home lifestyle balance and work lifestyle balance, both for our children and for ourselves. So when, you know, when your kid comes in from school and if they haven't had such a good day, you know, Nathan Wallace talks about this 5-minute mile theory about having a cup of tea at 3 o'clock in the day. And we still need to do that at the moment. We still need to follow that schedule because they are attending school and checking in to say how their day went, but talking about it for, you know, a max of 15 minutes. And after that, then going out and getting them to kick a ball, going out and getting them to shoot a hoop in a netball hoop, whatever it is for 40 minutes, you know, and changing that balance from school to home. The same for us from work. If we've had a really overwhelming day at work, you know, come in, sit down, have that cuppa. You know what I'm like, my cup of tea, Pop, but sit down, have that cuppa. And I find even sometimes the drive home or finding that 30 minutes to myself, because until I have the time, if my kids come up and start telling me about how their day has been at school, I'm not present, I'm not there, and I can be really quite reactive. And when I recognize, for me, the trigger, when I can recognize I'm helping everyone else, but I actually can't come in and listen to my own kids. I know I need to make change, and I know I need to make time for myself, to be available to myself and to my family. So all of
So,
this, all balance, setting the bucket list, dreaming big. We can do this, and putting a value on ourselves.
so I'm going to have a go at this next one because it's a good question too. When life goes back to normal, how can we make sure that these goals that we've set and that happen? And the answer there is that goals are flexible. They're not set in concrete. Goals have to be flexible because life is always going to intervene, and therefore we have to change our planning and be adaptable with goals as we go. The answer is when life gets back to normal, no one yet really knows what that is. We can guess at it. And this is a part of our resilience, is that we are going to have to be able to plan and adapt and maybe even change our goals slightly as a result of that. So that overseas trip that I was planning, maybe I do need to put that on hold for another couple of years because something outside of my control has influenced that. But I still need to be disciplined and still reset those goals and still make them happen.
Absolutely, Pop, absolutely. And the time of day, we came back out here. We had been here before, but I came back out in 2012 following the Celtic crash in Ireland, where our home and properties had devalued 65%. And there was so much learning, and as a community, that rebalance, there was so many positive things actually that came out of the Celtic crash, and it got us to look at our life. And for me, we came back here to New Zealand, and we came back here for a lifestyle choice, but very, very quickly, I got cut back up again in working full time and just life being crazy, and I think we all have been able to see, yes, we're spending a lot more in the last couple of weeks on our food, but our coffees, our fuel, all that income that we've just spending, just becoming a little bit more aware, and actually just devising the bucket list, still having the list there. We might have to change our timing on when we're going to be able to achieve it, but that doesn't mean that we still can't, instead of that overseas trip, but maybe that's going to be actually a trip of bluff, or a trip of doing a road trip at the South Island. It still doesn't mean that we still have to find ways, we still have to have goals.
I see we're just getting a wee reminder. We've got 5 minutes left at the most for these slides, Connie. So if we can whiz through to the
I'll whiz through. This is the grounding technique, and this is on the Lives Living page that you can look at, but it's actually looking at the 5 senses, and when we're feeling quite overwhelmed, and you can also do this in a visualization technique, but looking at 5 things you can touch, 4 things you can see, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. Really, really good technique to do if you're feeling quite overwhelmed and you find you're getting into that overthinking, ruminating, and catastrophizing pattern. It brings us back down. Visualization is really good to actually to close our eyes and visualize. It's a mindfulness technique again, but visualize somewhere. So for some, it can be a rock. For others, it can be a beach that they may have gone on holidays to. For me, this is a slide of the front field back home in Ireland, and actually visualizing being there and doing grounding technique, recognizing on the senses. Really, really good to manage our thoughts and our well-being. Our breathing techniques, really, really good at the moment. We should be doing them all the time, but a couple of wee exercises, they're also on our page. It's seeing how many breaths we take in a minute, recording that on our watch, and then going back and reducing that amount of breaths we take by half. Another breathing technique is the 4, 4, and 4. So breathing in for 4, holding for 4, and breathing out for 4. And our abdominal breathing is where we put our hand on our fine tummy that I have and on my chest wall, breathing in through my nose, holding, and as I do, my chest wall rises, and breathing out through the mouth, and as I do, my abdomen extends. So really good to do these, 5 breaths in the morning, 5 in the evening, and just actually preparing ourselves at the moment. And another wee slide there, just on some mindfulness strategies and meditations. And as I said, you get all of this on our own page. And this is just looking at the COVID-19. There's some really, I'm just going to flick through these. We're in isolation. We're not isolated. This is a key time for us to be actually really be able to reconnect with people, but in a different forum. And for me, I've probably never, my connection even with home has been really awesome. And we've just done that through different means. Distance, not social distancing, checking in on each other, and just being more mindful of actually everyone and of ourselves, and doing that, we can do that in very simple ways, just sending Ada half from afar, love from afar. So 5 ways of well-being, Pop.
Righto, very quickly, this is on our YouTube clip, but this is what I call my warrant of fitness. I've got it on my computer. I've got it on my in front of my bedside clock so that I don't clock watch at night. Connecting, giving, taking notice, keep learning, being active. These things, if I'm not feeling myself and getting a wee bit anxious like I can as well, then I can usually look at this list and identify one thing on it that I've been lacking lately and I need to do something about.
Awesome, Pop. Guys, some just resources if you're looking for, and really the importance at the moment is to have a really consistent message, and that's what the government is saying. So the All Right campaign have really good resources. The Mental Health Foundation, awesome website to look up stuff. If you go on health.govt.co.nz, they've also got, and Sir John Kerwin came up with a new app this week, Minsia, I can't pronounce it properly, but it's actually on the page also, and it's been endorsed by the ministry, and it's free at the moment. Other apps, the Headspace, Calm, Forest, Virtual Hope, and also I just got something sent to me about actually just a directory of apps, and I'll put that up this evening on our Lives Worth Living page. I use the virtual. Yeah, Bob.
That Sir John Kerwin one is Mentemia, MENTEMIA.
Italian meaning, Pop. I think it's Mind Me. I'll have to, but it's really good actually. So loads of resources. Also, 1737. Do you want to talk about that, Pop?
Yeah, 1737, 24 hours, 365 days of the year. Free service. Your name will be kept private. You can text it or phone it, and you'll be speaking to a professionally trained counsellor. Great service. And it may be just to talk about someone that you're concerned about. It may not be about you yourself. It can be both.
Yeah, that's awesome. And listen, if you are really concerned about someone and you feel they're an imminent risk to themselves, and really concerned that, you can phone the police 111 if you feel that they're urgent concern at the time. You can also the Ashburton services now have been in contact with all services in the DHB. They're all open. They're available at the moment. So 0800 222 955. And our CAF service for our children under 18, 0800 218 219, also available.
I'm just being told, Connie, that everyone will receive this. So they'll all receive this information.
So all that information is there. And if you want to make touch base with myself or Pup, that's my contact details and Pup's contact details. So don't hesitate. We've been quite busy. We've had quite a few calls navigating people through services. If you're concerned about the safety or well-being of someone and you want to kind of get a direction on where to go with services, please don't hesitate to contact us. Or just any concerns or looking for any resources, don't hesitate. So it's Connie.Quigley at safermidcanterbury.org.nz, and Paul.Chamberlain at safermidcanterbury.org.nz. Have we another question there, Paul?
Janice is going to open up to any questions now if they become up. So thank you. Back to you, Janice. This is the technical part.
I'll just try and get back on.
Come on in, Janice.
Okay. Thank you so much, Pup and Connie. That was really, really interesting. And thank you so much to the attendees for sending through a huge amount of questions. That was brilliant. I had some anonymous questions come through the Q&A box, which was also fantastic to see. We had some questions that had come through via email, which Verity had sent through as well. So that was fantastic. Now, just want to also let you all know that, yes, we'll be emailing you later on in today with the resources. And then this webinar, along with the previous webinar we did with Pup and Connie, will be available on YouTube. And so we'll let you know the link for that. I was just wondering, I think, Connie, can we get out of your shared screen? I don't know how we do that.
Yes.
Pretty fun doing these Zoom webinars, aren't they?
Me, are you?
And I will just have a look at some of the other questions that we have here. Please feel free to send them through now as well. I can still take those. One that came through earlier was, my partner is an essential worker and thinks that I've got it great being at home all day. How can I get them to understand that I feel lonely and unmotivated?
I think my partner is an essential worker too. I can completely have full empathy for this person, because I actually think being at home, whether we have kids at home, but being at home, working from home, actually can be really, really isolating, and especially for those of us who do like having social contact with others. So I think it's actually just trying, I mean, it's not intentional. He probably cares for you really deeply. It's not intentional, but everyone is really stressed. He's really, really stressed in his work every day. And it's actually finding time that when your partner comes in for work, that he gets time for himself, but actually also recognizing and just, self-advocating for yourself that you actually need time for your own well-being. And actually finding that time to check in on each other, and just recognizing, rather than getting into conflict about it, but actually recognizing the importance of each of you having a check-in, at the end of your day about how your day has been, and the importance of you saying it's important for you to have some time for yourself, actually to clear your mind, but actually also prioritizing that for yourself.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Thanks, Connie.
And I think that's really, really common, Janice, at the moment. I know I was on the phone to a colleague of mine yesterday evening about the same situation, because I think for a lot of us yesterday that we're home with the kids, trying to work, cooking dinners, so we have to find an out. We have to prioritize, and it goes back to that self-care of prioritizing care for self and putting ourselves first.
Excellent.
Interestingly enough, having been been in the police for 38 years and been in essential service, I can tell you now that I'm finding this much harder being at home and feeling that sort of, you're doing your bit, but it doesn't seem as real. It's very frustrating. So yeah, can relate to a lot of the feelings.
I think because we've probably actually only got time for one more question, one that has come through just today, which is that most people would respond quite well to the management strategies you've presented today, but there will be some people with undiagnosed, maybe medical problems that need professional help. So how do we tell if ourselves or someone we love actually needs more than just kind of more professional help or needs intervention?
What I did actually want to touch on, Janice, I think actually, and it was up there on the last slide, but I was flying through it. Actually, it's really important that if this is going on for a period of time and we're not in such a good place, to actually give a call to your GP, because our first point of call here should be always our GP. Our GP is aware of our family history. They're aware of our own history. And I think they are the first point of contact. So actually, and at the moment, our GP practices are available. And I think for a lot of us, we've anxiety around that at the moment, and we're associating, attending the GP, that practices are overwhelmed, but they are available. Practice nurses are available. They're doing consultations over the phone. And just, it's really, really important to give them the call, because for a lot of times when we can be quite overwhelmed, or if we're feeling quite flat in ourselves, we do have to outrule that it's not anything physical. So for me, who's a 45-year-old woman who, going through the change of life, needing to get my bloods checked, ensuring that my iron is good, that my hormone levels are good, just having that an MOT, just a regular screening check. So I would feel, get the person along to GP, check that there's not anything physical going on, and that there's not anything which, and they are the experts. They can refer on to the point of call.
And again, Janice, just on that point, I'd like to say that when I left the police, I was going through a lot of anxiety, but didn't recognise that myself. It was friends who encouraged me to go to the doctor, because I was always getting physically sick. But as it turned out, it was actually my anxiety causing that.
Wow.
So we don't always know ourselves. So sometimes it does take that encouragement of people close to us to say, go and get this sorted. And I was quite happy to understand that this was anxiety, because it gave all of a sudden a label to, I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what.
Wow, that's really amazing to know.
So
that.
I would say to everyone, 1737 is awesome, and it's there as an advisory, it's a counselling service. But I think it's really, really, really important to connect with your GP if you're concerned about what's happening, and just having a physical, checking your blood pressure, doing a bit of, just as I say, an MOT, just to do a general physical check.
And I guess some people might be worried during a lockdown, should we still be we don't want to be a burden on the GP, but actually we should call them anyway, and they will triage and decide when they want to see you, how they'll see you, and
absolutely, and they've been doing that so well. So the GP practices are available, the practice nurses are available, and they're the experts in this field. So I think actually often we can all wait until it gets the chronicity of our illness it can become quite paramount. So it's actually, recognizing early the warning signs and getting help.
And we can also call our GP if we're worried about someone in our family.
Absolutely, yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We've gone over time, but that's thanks to all the amazing questions we got through from all of you wonderful participants. And we've got great answers, hopefully, to go on with. If you have any further questions about information that we've touched on in this webinar, please feel free to get in contact with Connie or Pup, or reply to our follow-up email later on today. And I'd just like to extend another thank you to Connie and Pup for your amazing time and sharing your knowledge in this public kind of open forum. And I look forward to catching up with you again.
That was awesome. And Janice, thank you. And thank you for facilitating this. It's been an awesome opportunity for Pup and I. And I want to really thank actually some awesome questions there today.
Yeah,
and thank you for trusting us and for actually having the confidence to ask those questions. Yeah.
And Verity, my named computer in the background.
Thanks so much. We'll see you again.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.